we hit this stop sign. And Fat Steve is driving, and right there in the cut by Canyon Lake is right in between where we were and Lake Elsinore, where I'm from. And I let him know. I say, hey, bro, there's a cop right there over on the side, bro. Just keep cool. Just everybody keep cool. And he sees him, and he gets super nervous. And Steve told me that he had a license. So I'm not even tripping on it. I'm not even thinking anything other than, hey, we're good. We're good. Even if this cop pulls us over, we are good. And as he sees the cop, Fat Steve gets super nervous, and he takes off from the stop sign, and he jerks first gear and second gear. He jerks first gear and second gear to the point where the cop, we brought so much attention towards us, and the cop seen us, and we're trying to act cool as we go right past the cop, and the cop pulls right out of his little lane, and now he's behind us, and I see him in the rear view mirror and in the side mirror, and he blurps us. And as soon as he blurps us, I was like, it's okay, though. We're good, bro. It's okay. We're good, bro. They have no reason to search, Steve, because you have a license. And at that very moment, I'm like, bro, what the hell? Steve tells me he doesn't have a license. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have a license, Steve? What do you mean you don't have a license, bro? And the cop is pulling us over, so we have to pull off onto the side of the road, to which we do. And he's behind us, and now I take the .357 that I had on my lap, fully loaded with hollow points, and I stick it underneath the seat. I put it underneath the seat, and I'm thinking, damn it, I just let you drive, Steve. I just let you drive under the impression that you had a valid license, and now you don't, bro. I would have been the one to drive. I would have made sure that we're okay, and now we're stuck into a predicament. So the cop has us stopped. Steve, he turns off the ignition, and I put the .357 underneath there, hoping and praying to God that they don't find it, hoping to God that the cops don't search us, and the cop gets out of his vehicle. He gets out of his vehicle, and he shuts the door, and he walks over to the driver's side window where Steve is sitting, and he asks Steve, he says, license and registration. And Steve tells him, I don't have a license. And the cotton guy said, I do. And I try to intervene and try to take over the situation so that we wouldn't get searched. And I try to intervene and take over the situation and tell the cop, well, look, I have a license and registration, so there's no need to worry. And he says, well, you just sit right there. I'm going to go check this out. So he tells us to hang tight. He goes back to his car, and then he gets on his radio, and he called in for some sort of backup at that very moment. Then he walks back over, and he tells Fat Steve to get out of the car. Tells Fat Steve to get out of the car. Then he searches him, and he puts him in the back of the squad car. He does the same thing to Gary in the middle seat, and then he does the same thing to me in the passenger seat. And now all three of us are in the back of the squad car. But before he put me in the back of the squad car, he asked me, he says, hey, is there anything in your vehicle that I should know about that shouldn't be in there? And I tell him, I lied to him. I completely lied to him, and I told him no. I said, no, there's nothing underneath there, to which there was a fully loaded, illegal .357 Magnum Cobra, because I'm on my way to go put in some work. That's the reality of the situation. So they put us all three in the back of the squad car, and in the back of these squad cars, just to let everybody know, they bug the back of these squad cars to listen to what you say in the back seat. That really happens. And so I'm arguing with them. I didn't know this at the time. I found out later. So I'm arguing with Fat Steve about not having a license. And he's like, look, bro, I didn't think we were going to get caught. And he completely lied to me. I said, bro, you just got us caught up, bro. And they're telling me I got to take the rap for it. Since I'm the younger homie, I'm the youngster, I've got to take the rap for it. And no one's going to cop to it anyways. So the cop comes, his backup shows up. Now there's another squad car there. There's 2 squad cars total, and they're searching my truck, and I see them go directly into the passenger side of the vehicle. I try to intervene and take over the entire situation, but there wasn't much that I can do. And when we're in the back seat of this cop car, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, bro, I had work to put in. All I was going to do was just take this .357 and do the orders that I was instructed to do, which was run up on Stoneman Street, go up to Homeboy's house, and pull out this gun and start shooting as many people as possible, because I was in that mindset back then. That was the mindset that I was in back then. But what happens is this. It takes a turn for the worst. So I see that cop pull out a big old gun from underneath the seat, and there it was, the .357, and he comes back. To make a long story short, he comes over and he says, do you know about this? And I said, yes, it's mine. I said, it's mine. These dudes had nothing to do with it. I take full responsibility for it. So please cut them loose. And that's what they did. They cut them loose, and he puts me in the back of the squad car because they were above 18. I was younger than 18. I was about 16 and a half at this time, and he's saying he's going to take me to juvenile hall. I tell the officer, I say, listen, sir, I've never been in trouble. Is it possible that you can write me a citation and take me to my mom's house? And I convince him to do that, and that's what he does. So he's taking me to my mom's house in Lake Elsinore. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and on our way there, he's telling me, he said, listen, if your mom accepts you, then I'll write you a citation. If not, I'm taking you straight to juvenile hall. So we get to my mom's house, and she's sleeping. And when she's sleeping, the officer shines the spotlight on the house so it's super bright, and he pounds on the door until my mom gets up. My mom gets up, and she's super mad about the whole situation, yet she accepts to take responsibility for it. He cuts me loose with a citation for a court appointment for juvenile hall for my very first time, and he tells my mom that I just got caught with a gun, and my mom's not happy. However, my mom's got to go to work at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and she's gone, so she's not going to be able to watch me anyway, and the only thing I'm thinking of is I need to handle what the hell I need to handle, and this is the very first time. This was like a pivoting moment in my life. This was the very first time that I really, really did some real crazy stuff to this degree. So I get inside the house, and I wait for the cop to leave, and I have a closet full of guns. I have a closet full of guns. And the thing is I had a .22 bolt-action rifle, and I grab it, and I get on my phone, and I'm trying to get a hold of my homeboy Josh Gibbs. And I do get a hold of him. Josh Gibbs is in the neighborhood. That's Fly. That's the dude who brought me into SM. And I tell him, look, bro, they just cut Steve and Ozar loose. What's up, bro? Let's meet up. Let's handle this. So me and Gibbs, we get together, and we are going down through the neighborhood, street by street, looking for a G-Ride. For those that don't know, a G-Ride is a stolen car, and we're trying to find one. So we go over to my homegirl, Missy's house. Missy's mom is a party girl, and she's always out all the time, and she leaves the cars there with keys unattended. And we steal the car from Missy. Me and Josh take the car from Missy, and we're going to handle business. Me and him are going to handle business. So I took the gun. I had the .22 in my hand, and I'm ready to fire this thing. And we're on our way to Stoneman Street, just me and Josh. And we're cruising down there, and it's about 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning. It's super dark. But see, here's the thing. EYC back then, and people who used to hang out in the neighborhood would hang out all night long. So I knew that even through all this time, they would still be out there kicking it. At least a few of them would be out there kicking it. So we go, and we go up through Stoneman, we turn in, and now we're driving. I'm on the passenger seat, and Josh is driving. As we're driving through, we hit the cul-de-sac. We drive by, and sure enough, there's about 5 to 6 people that are standing out front of Looney's house, and my adrenaline kicks in. Because I've never done this sort of action before, and I'm like, man, dude, this is crazy. So we turn around, and we pull around the cul-de-sac so that we can make it on the way out. And sure enough, I start opening fire. I get out, I start opening fire, and I'm shooting as many shots as I possibly can do. And they take off running, and a lot of it was like a blur. Most of it was like a blur, but the thing was is I wasn't going to stop until I fired every single bullet in that gun. And reflecting back, that was super dangerous, because if I would have run out of bullets and then they would have regrouped, then they would have shot me to death, and I would have had no ammunition to protect myself. So I fired off every single bullet out of that gun, and we peeled off. And the thing was is SM, this little gang that I'm from, has never committed an act like that, ever in the history of SM till this night. So they didn't even think it was us. And we go and we hide out. We hide out in the neighborhood for days on end, and it's circulating. The word is circulating through the neighborhood that Payaso from EYC's house just got shot up. And they are mad about it. They are super mad about it, and they're thinking that it's EVL that did it, because they're not even thinking for 1 second that it would possibly be SM that did it. So their whole attention is focused towards EVL. And in EVL, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on Sandman's channel, EVL in a street called Jameson Street. Jameson Street is one of the worst, most dangerous streets in the city of Lake Elsinore at this time. I don't know what's going on with it now, but this is what happens. On the top of Jameson Street, On the back side of it, there's a little alleyway, and there's an apartment complex. To this day, anybody who's listening to this story who wants to go investigate it, they'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You hit that back street behind Jameson, and there's just a little bit of apartment complexes that are really, really ghetto, but all the windows are shot out because of what happened. All the windows are shot out. There's bullet holes through the buildings and everything. EYC retaliated because they thought it was EVL, and they got together a couple nights later, and they hit that back side right there, and they shot up EVL's entire apartment complexes. And they found out, EVL was like, what the hell, we didn't do anything for them to be able to do that, to retaliate. There had been sort of peace. There had been kind of peace through the lake around this time. So when this happened, this kicked up a lot of dust. And EVL now wants to know who's responsible for it. They want to know why, and the heck, they just got their apartment complexes shot up, and they're demanding answers, and they are doing an investigation on our side of the lake, Brightman Avenue. Brightman Avenue is the main street that we share, but Grand Avenue runs all through Lakeland Village, and that is the part of the lake that we all share, EVL and SM. So they're doing a full force investigation looking for who just committed this act and why they just got shut up, and they find out that we are the ones that did it, that Powder is the one that is responsible for doing this act, and now they're pissed. But they're pissed because they got shot up, but they're not so mad, so now they want to have a meeting, and we're hanging out in front of Chief's house. Chief, introducing him to this story, was one of the leaders of SM. He is a founder of the Elsinore chapter. They put him in charge. SM is originally from Riverside, and then it moved out to Lake Elsinore, and Chief was the one who was calling the shots for Lake Elsinore. So we're standing in front of Chief's house because he is a leader. He is a leader, and later on, I will get into it about Chief as well and what happened to him later on. So as we're hanging out there, it's broad daylight at the top of his street. At the top of Turner Street, all of a sudden we see a Suburban, and that's Big Happy. Big Happy is one of the leaders of EVL. EVL stands for Elsinore Vatos Locals. It's one of the oldest neighborhoods in Lake Elsinore, and we see them pull up on the top street. And we knew what it was for. We knew what it was for. We knew that there was going to be some sort of repercussions going on because we were catching the wind that EVL was upset about what happened. And now this is what goes down. Bullet is Big Happy's nephew. Bullet from EVL is one of the main heads. Wolfie from EVL is one of the main heads. But Bullet and Big Happy were in the Suburban that day, and they stopped. Bullet opens up the passenger side door, and he steps outside, and he's looking down there, and he's just, back then, the essays were so crazy back then, and they were Ben Davis up, Cortez's, slingshots, bald heads, and they were just considered just super cholos. And when you looked up there, you just seen this crazy dude step outside of this Suburban, and you know they're strapped. You know the EVL strapped up there, and he waves for Chief to come up there. He wants to talk to Chief. So we look at Chief, and we're all going to walk up there as a bunch because it's just a bunch of white boys in slingshots just hanging out in the middle of the street, and we're trying to act like we're hard as hell now. We're acting like we are with the business. And so Chief tells us, hold on a second. Let me go see what they want. And he goes up there and he has a talk with them, and he tells them, and they have some, and he steps inside of the Suburban, and they close the door, and they're having some sort of talk inside that Suburban, and then Chief gets out. He gets out, and he's walking back towards us, and they turn around, and they drive away, and then Chief comes up, and he tells us, he says, hey, check this out, fellas. They're having a party on Jameson Street tonight. They're not mad, but they want to click. Either we're going to join forces, and we're going to take responsibility for what we just did. See, what happens is you have to take responsibility. If we didn't take responsibility for the act that we just committed, then we were going to be at war with EVL. So basically, what they told Chief was, they said, check this out. You guys are going to come to Jameson Street tonight. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to party. We're going to hang out together, and we're going to get on the same page. You guys are going to claim responsibility. You're going to go all around the city tagging and taking full responsibility for that act that just went down on Stoneman Street. And if you do that and you take responsibility, then we'll be allies, and we will ride together. But if you don't, then you're going to be at war with EVL. So that day, Chief, it was broad daylight. The party is going down that night on Jameson Street. And I'm going to get into this party on the next story, but what happens is we're sitting there with a brand new group of guys that are doing crazy acts now, and we only have a few guns. So Chief is saying, so we all asked Chief, what are we going to be doing? He said, you know what? We're going to go down there. We're going to go to that party tonight. Those who will actually, I think, will actually shoot somebody is going to hold on to these guns. I was one of them. A couple of other of my homeboys were one of them, and we only had about 3 or 4 guns, and that is nothing compared to what they got down there. So we all are anticipating what's going to happen. So we were talking about it, and we were smoking crack all night, getting ready to hit this party on Jameson Street, and that's what's going to happen.